What if you're chasing something that was never meant to satisfy you? What if the image of success you've been pursuing isn't actually your own? We live in a world where ambition is celebrated, but rarely questioned. You're told to keep moving, keep building, keep proving. But to who? And for what? From a young age, we're conditioned to believe that success is everything. Chase the promotion, get the degree, build the brand, make the money, be seen, be impressive. We're taught that our value is tied to output, that our worth is measured by our wins. But here's the quiet truth no one tells you. You can hit every target and still feel like something's missing. You can stand on the podium and still feel hollow. You can win the race and wonder why the finish line didn't feel like arrival. It's because success, the way it's defined by society, is external. It's performance, it's optics. It's about being seen winning, not feeling whole. We're chasing metrics, not meaning. And that's the trap. Productivity has become our identity. Being busy feels like being valuable. But when you stop and ask yourself why you're doing any of it, the answers are often empty or inherited. You reach the top, but the view didn't heal you. Because what you were really looking for wasn't applause. It was peace. It wasn't recognition. It was purpose. But purpose doesn't scream for attention. It whispers. It comes in stillness, not speed. And yet we rarely slow down long enough to hear it. We were too busy trying to keep up with everyone else's version of making it. We don't ask what success actually feels like, we only ask what it looks like. But real fulfillment has nothing to do with your follower count, your salary, or your title. It has everything to do with alignment, with how closely your life reflects your values, with how deeply you're connected to the work you do, the people you love, the person you are when no one's watching. Because here is the truth you can't ignore forever. You can be successful and empty. You can be admired and alone. You can have it all and feel like none of it matters. And you can also live quietly without applause and feel rich in meaning. You can be unknown and deeply, soulfully fulfilled. The world won't always reward meaning, it rewards visibility. But your soul doesn't care how things look. It only knows how things feel. And if you've been chasing someone else's dream, someone else's definition of success, maybe it's time to stop and ask, is this even mine? Maybe you haven't failed. Maybe you've just been aiming at the wrong target. So no, you don't have to stop chasing. You just need to change direction. Keep climbing if you want, but make sure the mountain is yours. Otherwise, you'll reach the top and the silence up there will echo with everything you left behind. Success is a spotlight, meaning is a lantern. One is designed to impress, the other is meant to illuminate. We've been taught to chase what can be measured. Promotions, paychecks, praise. But none of those can tell you how it feels to wake up in the morning and be at peace with yourself. None of those prove that you're living in alignment with what you actually care about. You can have 1 million followers and still feel invisible to yourself. You can have a corner office and still dread Mondays. You can have a perfect-looking life and feel quietly miserable inside. Because when we build a life on metrics, we forget to ask if it actually means anything to us. Meaning doesn't rush. It roots. It's not urgent. It's steady. It's not loud. It's true. When you stop running and start listening, you begin to hear your own voice again, the one that got buried under expectations, deadlines, and comparisons. And that voice doesn't care how polished your LinkedIn profile is. It cares about what sets your heart on fire. When you choose meaning over metrics, you begin to make different decisions. You don't take the job because it sounds impressive. You take it because it feels right. You don't say yes because you were afraid to say no. You say yes because it aligns with your values. You redefine growth not by how fast you move, but by how deeply you live. You begin to realize that real progress is often invisible. It looks like healing, like resting, like walking away from what no longer fits. It looks like slowing down, not because you're weak, but because you're wise. Choosing meaning means honoring your truth over your image. It means choosing relationships over reputation, depth over display, peace over performance. And it's not easy, because the world will still applaud your hustle. It will still reward your output. It will still seduce you with the illusion that more is always better. But you'll start to notice that the applause fades quickly, and what's left is you, just you, and whether you're okay in your own skin, in your own quiet. Meaning doesn't always give you a trophy, but it gives you something better, a life you actually want to live, a life that fits you, not just your resume. So when you feel lost, it may not be because you've failed, it may be because you've been climbing someone else's ladder, chasing someone else's dream, speaking someone else's truth. And the bravest thing you can do is stop. Not because you're quitting, but because you're ready to begin, again, on your own terms. When you begin to live with meaning at the center, everything changes. You stop moving on autopilot. You become intentional. You start asking harder questions, the kind that don't fit on a spreadsheet. What actually makes me feel alive? Who am I trying to impress and why? What would I still do if no one clapped, no one watched, no one noticed? You realize that true fulfillment isn't found in the spotlight, but in the quiet moments where you feel most connected to yourself. You stop measuring your life by how much you've accomplished, and start measuring it by how fully you've lived. Meaning is not always efficient. It doesn't always produce results you can brag about, but it creates a life you don't need to escape from. And maybe that's the point. Maybe success is about speed, but meaning is about depth. And if you've been sprinting toward an idea of success that leaves you feeling drained, anxious, disconnected, maybe it's time to walk instead of run. Maybe it's time to trade urgency for honesty. When you choose meaning, you begin to build a life that's rooted, not just decorated. You stop filling your days just to stay busy and start asking what actually matters. You find power in rest. You find freedom in saying no. You learn to trust stillness instead of fearing it. There's a quote that says, "If the path before you is clear, you're probably on someone else's." Meaning doesn't offer clear instructions. It asks for presence, not perfection. It requires you to let go of being impressive and start being real. Real with your needs, real with your desires, real with your boundaries. You begin to feel the difference between what feeds your ego and what feeds your soul, and when those two things don't match, you know which one to choose. You may disappoint people. You may walk away from opportunities that look good on paper. You may lose applause, attention, approval. But you'll gain something far more important: alignment, integrity, wholeness. And that kind of inner clarity, nothing can buy it, fake it, or hand it to you. It's earned by showing up for your truth again and again, even when it's quiet, even when no one else understands. Because at the end of the day, you're the one who has to live with your choices. You're the one who has to carry the weight of the life you've built. And only you can decide if that weight feels like pressure or purpose. So ask yourself honestly, am I building a life that looks good? Or one that feels right? Am I climbing higher because I want to, or because I'm afraid of standing still? What if the stillness is exactly where meaning lives? What if you've been running from the very thing that could set you free? You don't have to abandon ambition. You don't have to let go of your goals. But you do have to ask if the version of success you're chasing is truly yours, or just what you were taught to want. Maybe it's time to stop chasing applause and start chasing alignment. Maybe it's time to redefine success as something quieter, something slower, something deeper. Because when you choose meaning, you don't lose yourself in the race. You return to yourself, piece by piece, breath by breath. You begin to trust your own rhythm. You begin to understand that a peaceful life is not a small life. It's a brave one. A meaningful life doesn't need to be flashy. It needs to be honest. And honesty requires courage. Courage to say, "This isn't working for me anymore." Courage to walk away. Courage to start over. Courage to live by your own values even if no one claps. Especially if no one claps. You're not here to perform. You're here to live. Deeply, truly, fully. Success fades. Meaning stays. The titles, the numbers, the followers, they will all shift with time. But the way you feel when you're at peace with yourself, when you're proud of the way you show up, when you choose love over ego, presence over pressure, that's what lasts. So stop climbing faster. Start walking deeper. Ask better questions. Choose different goals. Live for the quiet yes in your chest, not the loud noise in the crowd. The world doesn't need more perfect people. It needs more present people, grounded people, people who know who they are when the spotlight's off. You're allowed to change your direction. You're allowed to rewrite your definition of success. And you're allowed to want something more meaningful than just more. You've been enough this whole time. You just needed to remember. So here's your permission. Pause, breathe, ask yourself what really matters, and follow that.